In the scorching heat of Nevada's desert, a man stood staring at a line of shoes. They were nothing special, at least not yet. But that moment marked the beginning of one of the most unexpected success stories in fashion. Tony Hsieh wasn't your typical fashion mogul. He didn't care about runways, trends, or glossy magazines. What he cared about, what obsessed him, was something far less glamorous: customer service. And that obsession would change online retail forever. Before Zappos became a billion-dollar brand, it was a struggling startup in San Francisco. In 1999, selling shoes online sounded like a terrible idea. People thought, who buys shoes without trying them on? Turns out, millions would. Nick Swinmurn had the idea after failing to find a pair of brown Airwalks at the mall. Frustrated, he realized there was no central place online to buy shoes. He pitched it to investors, and Zappos, originally named ShoeSite.com, was born. Tony Hsieh, then running a venture fund called Venture Frogs, wasn't impressed at first. But when he saw the numbers and the potential, he took a chance. Not just as an investor. He joined as CEO, and that changed everything. Zappos started small. Its first warehouse was a cramped space filled with stacks of shoeboxes. Orders were slow, returns were high. But Tony had a radical idea. What if they made returns easy, even fun? No questions asked. Free shipping both ways. Tony believed customer service was everything. He told his team, "We're not an online shoe retailer. We're a service company that happens to sell shoes." Zappos didn't compete on price. It competed on happiness. Real, human, 24/7 customer service, no scripts. Even the call center was different. One legendary call lasted over 10 hours. Why? Because the customer wanted to talk, and the agent listened. No upsell, no rush. Just connection. In a world of robots, Zappos felt human. Zappos also focused on convenience. Their website was simple, fast, and user-friendly. They photographed every shoe in-house, showing multiple angles. They even shot videos of employees wearing them. It wasn't flashy. It was useful. And customers noticed. As orders increased, so did the pressure. Traditional warehouses couldn't keep up. So Zappos took fulfillment into its own hands. They moved operations to Kentucky, near UPS's main hub. That meant faster delivery, a key to winning loyal customers. By 2003, sales hit $70 million, but the company was burning cash. Tony poured in more of his own money to keep it alive. Friends and advisors thought he was crazy, but he saw what they didn't: a long game. Then came 2008. The financial crisis hit. Venture capital vanished. Retailers scrambled. Zappos was on the edge. Tony made a tough call: cut staff, reduce marketing, and focus only on what worked: repeat customers and service. It was risky, but it paid off. In 2009, Amazon came knocking. Jeff Bezos had been watching Zappos closely. Rather than crush them, he offered to buy them for $1.2 billion. Tony agreed, but only if Zappos could keep its culture. Amazon said yes. The deal was done. The team celebrated not just the money, but the validation. They had proved it. Kindness, transparency, and obsession with service could build an empire. Zappos wasn't just selling shoes. It was selling trust. And people bought it. Again and again. Tony refused a higher cash offer from another company because he believed in Zappos' spirit. "I didn't want to sell out," he said. "I wanted to keep building something meaningful." That choice defined him and defined Zappos. Zappos became famous for its quirky, open culture. No cubicles, no formal dress code. Employees decorated their desks with lights, toys, even hammocks. The office felt more like a playground than a corporation. And that was the point. They had parades, costume contests, office karaoke. Some thought it was silly, but Zappos believed happy employees meant happy customers, and the data backed it up. Retention, satisfaction, and sales soared. Culture wasn't fluff, it was strategy. New hires went through a month-long training, even if they weren't in customer service. At the end, they were offered $2,000 to quit. Why? Because Tony only wanted people who truly believed. Most stayed. That's how strong the culture was. In 2010, Tony wrote a book, Delivering Happiness. It wasn't just a business memoir. It was a manifesto about values, purpose, and the power of joy in work. It became a bestseller, inspiring a generation of entrepreneurs to think differently. Tony spoke around the world. He wasn't flashy or loud. He wore jeans and a hoodie and talked about happiness like it was a business metric. He believed profits were a byproduct of purpose, and Zappos proved him right. But the story wasn't all sunshine. In later years, Zappos faced pressure from Amazon to integrate more. Some feared the culture would fade. Tony pushed back, trying to protect what they'd built, even as challenges grew. Behind the scenes, Tony struggled. After retiring in 2020, he withdrew from friends and family. He chased new ideas, some wild, some dangerous. He talked about building utopias, experimenting with biohacking, and living without limits. But something was unraveling. In November 2020, tragedy struck. Tony died in a house fire in Connecticut. The nation was stunned. He was just 46. Tributes poured in from business leaders, employees, and fans. All echoed the same message. He had changed lives. Tony's death raised tough questions. Could Zappos survive without him? Could a company built on culture thrive without its cultural architect? The leadership vowed to honor his vision, but the path ahead was uncertain. In the years since, Zappos has continued adapting: remote work, new leadership, shifting priorities. But the DNA Tony instilled, centered on service, trust, and joy, still pulses through its veins. It's not the same, but the core remains. Customers still rave about Zappos. Not just the shoes, but the service. The handwritten notes, the surprise upgrades, the calls that don't feel like calls. That spirit hasn't vanished. It lives in every box, every return, every smile. Tony once said, "Chase the vision, not the money. The money will end up following you." That wasn't just advice, it was prophecy. Zappos didn't chase profit, it chased purpose. And in doing so, it became a giant. And if you've made it this far, you clearly appreciate a good story. So hey, why not subscribe? We promise more tales with heart, hustle, and maybe a few shoes along the way. Zappos wasn't built in boardrooms or spreadsheets. It was built in conversations, callbacks, and quirky company parties. In every decision that said, "Let's care more." It was built by people who believed business could be human. Tony Hsieh didn't invent shoes, or retail, or even online shopping. But he reimagined what they could feel like. He made buying shoes an act of joy, and he made running a business an act of love. His story reminds us that success doesn't have to come at the cost of soul, that the best companies aren't just efficient, they're kind, and that sometimes the most powerful thing a CEO can do is listen. Today, Tony's legacy lives far beyond Zappos. It lives in startups who put people first, in companies who dare to be weird, in leaders who choose empathy. His flame may be gone, but his spark, it's everywhere. From a box of brown airwalks to a billion-dollar empire, it all started with one frustrated shopper and one big dream. A dream that business could be more than business. That it could be service, joy, purpose, and yes, happiness. And so in that dusty Nevada heat, as the shoes lined up and the vision took shape, Tony Hsieh started something. Not just a company, but a movement. One that walked, ran, and danced its way into history. And maybe, just maybe, the next time you open a shoebox, you'll think about the man who believed every package could deliver happiness, not just a product. And that belief, it changed everything. Not every story ends with fireworks. Some end quietly, With a whisper, a smile, a memory, Tony's story ends with a legacy that continues to walk forward, one joyful step at a time. Thanks for walking this journey with us.